What up, High and Wide fam? It's Delco Dave. I'm joined today by Preston and Steve's own Nick McLwain, Crunch Fitness, Nick Ruger, and the man behind High and Wide Hockey, Jim Mcllwain. So I'll start with Nick. Nick, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing this Nick, right? Not that Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me a part of this. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you taking the time. Yeah, this is gonna be my first show with two people with the same name, so this is gonna be fun. Jim, how you doing, man?
Doing good, dude. I'm grateful to be on this show once again, hanging out with you and the Knicks.
Nick Ruger, you all right, man?
See, we had too many Nicks. That's the problem. You can only have one Nick per episode.
You dropped off 11 seconds.
Stick with McElwain, not Ruger. He's going to screw you over every time.
Nick Ruger, how you doing, man? Nick, can you hear us?
I think we lost him.
All right. Nick, if you jump back on, I'll bring you back on, man.
I'll text him.
All right. Well, anyway, so this is a Flyers show. So we're going to start off with the Flyers and see real things go. But the coaching search right now is the big thing. So, Jim, what do you got going on? What have you been hearing about the coaching search these days?
So I'm trying to find out who they interviewed earlier this week. We were supposed to get Danny Briere on the show Monday afternoon, and unfortunately he had to cancel Sunday night. But at least he gave us a little bit of a tidbit why. He said he had to cancel the interview because they were doing a coaching interview on Monday. He didn't say who, but he gave us that much. Buccigross keeps coming out with these little GIFs or these memes, whatever he's doing. He came out with another one today in regards to Tortorella. I think there was a report from Frank Saravalli that said the Flyers did not start their second round of interviews yet, but expect Tortorella to be in the second round of interviews. So Tortorella's been connected with the Flyers for a little bit here now.
Ruger, you back, man? You good?
I'm in business.
All right, cool. Perfect. Glad you're back, man. Hope you're doing good. You're going to be Ruger for the show. I don't know if you got off, but it's the first time I'm having people with the same name on the show. So you're Ruger, Nick's Nick.
Yeah, you just power moved my name. That's all right.
Nick, what are you hearing about the Flyers coaching search, or what are your thoughts on it? Any opinions you had? Who do you want coming in?
Probably the same rumors that you guys are hearing as well, but the Trotz and Tortorella and Tocchet, and I don't think that they'll make a decision until Tockett's not doing the broadcasting anymore. There's only so much he can do and say at this point. If I were a betting man, I'd put my money on Trotz only because he's a proven winner. I think Tortorella and Tocchet obviously would be a fan favorite, and it'd be cool to bring him back into the fold, but I think that Danny Briere's influence on where this team goes is going to be pretty profound over the next few years. I hope so. I like Danny a lot as a person, and I think he's got a great hockey brain. And so it's just gut for me. I'm not basing this on any inside knowledge or anything that I know that you guys don't know. I just think the feeling that I get is I was a little surprised that the Islanders let Trotz go, and I think that the Flyers can reap those benefits. And I think Tortorella is great. I think he's a strong motivator. He gets under players' skin in a good way. Tocchet is Tocchet. It's pretty hard not to love that guy. But I just don't think that personally, I don't think he's the right fit for this team. So I think they're going to go with Trotz. But we'll probably know within 2 weeks, if not sooner.
I think part of what might play a role as far as Trotz coming in is that he's going to want personnel say. And if Briere's is going to be taken over, I think that's a good way to have a little transitionary power exchange there. Somebody like Trotz having a little bit more say, and then Danny Briere might take over a couple years down the road and, be the man calling the shots. But I think Trotz wants personnel say. I think that's going to play a factor in it.
Yeah, and players seem to respond to that too. I mean, listen, we all know we're in this weird rebuilding phase right now, and there are some talented players on the team. There are some huge gaps that need to be filled, but because of that, because they're really not starting from scratch, but essentially near the bottom, they can roll the dice and do whatever they want because there's nowhere to go but up, right? And so, like, if you're looking at what this team has been over the last couple of years, even when they made it in the pandemic year, in the bubble year to advance in the playoffs. It's hard to believe that team was as good as they were, and the team that just finished up the season was as bad as they were. They're probably somewhere in between. But the results speak for themselves. Where they finished at the end of the season, it was tiring. It was exhausting. Just watching the clips you guys played at the beginning of the episode, I miss it. It's funny for me now to look at Giroux in a Flyers uniform. To be honest, like looking at getting so used to that over the years, and now watching so much of the playoffs. I've watched as many of the games as I have. I've gotten used to seeing him in a Panthers uniform. So who knows what happens with Giroux in the offseason? Who knows who they bring in? But my point in all of this is they can do almost anything, and it'll be a right move because it'll be a change, and really, and Nick and I Ruger have talked about this quite a bit over the last couple of years. Like, they need to do something. They need to blow it up because the results are sad as a Flyers fan. We're not. They should be a better organization than they are, and they're just not. So let's change what they are, and let's find ways to improve them.
You're 100% right about they have to make change. I mean, for decades, like, we were a premier franchise. Like, it was shocking when we missed the playoffs. Like, it wasn't something that was supposed to happen. So, I think, like you said, that anything they change, anything they do is a right move because they have to do it. Ruger, how do you think the fans feel right now about the coaching search? How do you personally feel about it?
Well, now at this point, Vigneault was fired sometime in December, right? So it's kind of like, what have we been doing in the last 6 months? Like, what are we waiting for? Unless we are waiting for, like, Tocchet. I find it weird that Buccigross would put that out there if it wasn't somewhat factual about Tortorella. He's broken news like that before. So I think Torch would be a good guy. I mean, I like all the guys, and everywhere Trotz goes, they just, like, make the playoffs and go run to the finals. And, the Islanders smacked the Flyers around a little, a couple years ago in the bubble. So obviously what he does works. Whatever we've been doing doesn't work. So any kind of change that we can get is going to be good. Change the players, change the coach. But we haven't gotten out of the first round since 2012. And for a city that should be a hockey juggernaut, that's pretty frustrating.
No, absolutely. And Nick mentioned Giroux, and I think I'm at the point where I don't want him back. I think that there just needs to be a culture change. I think new leadership needs to step in. Personally, that's just kind of how I feel. Not that I saw anything after he left. It wasn't like the team played better instantly when he left, or they made some kind of run. I just feel like he had his time, and unfortunately, we never won a cup. But I think it's over. It's time to turn that page. Jim, what do you think, man, about Giroux?
The thing is, you would want a player back with Giroux's skill set, but you don't really want to disrupt the locker room in the sense that you probably want a new leader to step up. And if he comes back, he's not going to just come back and be captain. And then if he comes back and he's not captain, that's weird. But his skill set would be pretty vital to this team if you watch what he does with the skill players in Florida and how he was making that team hum along and multiple points in multiple games. So the skill is still there. But, yeah, I think from a leadership aspect, it's probably not the right move to bring him back.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not knocking Giroux's game at all.
Right.
He can still compete. He can still play with the best of them. He's still one of the very good to elite players in the league for sure. I just think everybody needs to move on at some point. Wayne Gretzky gets traded. Joe Montana finishes his career with Kansas City. Like, at some point, things just need to move on. I think that's where we're at with this franchise and Giroux. It's just time to go our separate ways. We don't need a reunion this summer.
No, I think you're right.
It'll be interesting to see because Claude, really can control his own destiny at this point. He can kind of pick and choose where he goes. I thought Colorado would be more in the running than they were. I guess there was something about Florida that he really liked, and my brothers and I have been joking that he chose poorly. The Avs are just incredible. But it's interesting to watch Claude play on a team where he is not the best or one of the top three players. He's probably the 5th, 6th, 7th best player on the Panthers, but he doesn't have to be the best player on the Panthers either. He can be the guy that wins the faceoffs, that plays some of the power play. I think that he really took to being in Florida. I think his family liked it and likes it. So a lot of Claude's decisions are made by what his wife wants to do, where he wants to raise his kids. If he wants to come back here, I think he can, and I think the team will accept him because it'd be a bad PR move for them not to. Nick Ruger, I agree with everything you just said. I think it's time for the franchise to move on. But I think if Claude wants to come back, that disrupts everything. But he really can choose where he wants to stay. I think he's going to stay in Florida. I think he found a fit that he likes on a team that's good, that continues to improve. And the Panthers probably are now where the Avs were 2 or 3 seasons ago, right? Like the Avalanche couldn't make it out of the second round, and now they just look I mean, that whole Edmonton series, they are so fun to watch. They roll line after line after line. McKinnon is just on a different planet. I mean, the McKinnon versus McDavid dynamic was just so entertaining, and I'm sure you guys will agree. Like, we're Eastern Conference guys. You watch these Western Conference games, especially in the playoffs. It's wide open. It's fast. It's fun. It's entertaining. Either one of those teams coming out of the West, I would have rooted for in the finals. But now I'm definitely pulling for the Avalanche.
Yeah, I have a bunch of Avalanche fans, a bunch of friends that are Avalanche fans these days since I moved to the Midwest. So I'm kind of I jumped on that bandwagon with them early in the playoffs just because, I needed somebody to root for at some point. So they became one of my teams quickly. But what you talked about, Nick, about the gameplay in the West, you're absolutely right. Those are exciting games. I think not that the East wasn't, but there's a lot of I don't know. I feel like there's more structured play in the East a lot. Like it really is almost like the Wild Wild West when you watch some of those teams play out there. Like it's just crazy scoring. Like honestly, if you had told me that every game in the Eastern Conference Finals was 1-0 and every game in the Western Conference Finals was 8-6, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like,
yeah. Imagine scoring 6 goals and losing. The Oilers in game 1, and like going into the playoffs. You're in the conference finals. We're gonna say that you're gonna score 6 goals tonight, but guess what? The other team's gonna score 8. And that's what the Avalanche can do. And then the Avs stepped it up in defense, and their goaltending was what's that guy? Francouz, right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
The backup. He's been great too. So I will, but and we'll see what happens tonight. You can't discount the Lightning. I mean, they're back-to-back champs for a reason, and so they've got the experience. Kucherov and Stamkos and everything that the Lightning have. It'll be interesting to see who comes out of these because I've been surprised at how well the Rangers have played. I didn't think that they were going to get this far, and I didn't think that they were going to hold their own with the Lightning, but they have. So yeah, Ruger, what do you think about?
That's what's painful for us, how the Rangers tore it down and
yeah,
and picked the right free agents and always can find a goalie, and now they're just back coming along. They're probably going to, I could see the Lightning, they're built for this. So, I feel like this series is going to go 7, but also watching these playoffs, can't look at the Flyers and say, oh, we need one player and we'll be there too. So
totally.
That's the frustration with it.
Yeah. Somebody was saying on the broadcast the other night with the Avalanche and the Oilers that Sakic, I guess, got rid of a third of his team in the offseason. And I didn't know that until the broadcaster said that. It might have been Jonesy. But anyway, the Avalanche have had a really good team over the last few years. And then they decided in the offseason last year, we're not good enough, and we're going to change that. And Ruger's absolutely right. I mean, the Flyers are 4, 5, 6 players away from really being a contender in the East. They can rebuild a little bit in this offseason, maybe be a playoff team because, let's face it, almost anybody can make the playoffs in the NHL. But to compete with the teams that we're watching now, they're a ways off.
100%. And you mentioned that, being 4 or 5 players away, both of you guys said it. But we have Drunk Gritty, one of the contributors at High and Wide Hockey, just put an article out about how Johnny Gaudreau is the Flyers' Antemi Panarin, and he's going to be the one to help us turn it around. Ruger, as a representative of the Flyers fan base here, the voice of the Flyers, the voice of the fans, what do you think about Johnny G coming in, Johnny Hockey coming home?
I guess it's somewhat along the lines of a Drew type skill set, a little bit younger, maybe even a little bit smaller, but we can't really discount saying we need those players. If you get a full season of a healthy Hayes, healthy Couturier, healthy Ellis, you get 3 players back right there. So, there's a lot of other things that go into it. What's going on in defense and what is Carter Hart? Because I feel like he's played these last couple of years. I don't really know what he is. So that's the ultimate question. And I think how he goes, the team will go.
See, I actually think we have answered the question of Carter Hart. I think Carter Hart's here to stay. I think he's going to be a stud. I think he proved that this year in what was an absolutely difficult season, but watching him play night in and night out was probably my favorite thing to watch. I think he was the best player on the ice for us almost every game.
Even if he's not a stud, he'll steal a few games for us here and there. He's a good, I agree with you, David. Like, he's a good enough goalie to be their goalie, right? He does not have to be a Shesterkin or a Vasilevsky or any of these like elite goalies. They just have, it's been such a rotating door of goalies over the last 2 decades, 2.5 decades, really, at this point. I was thinking about the Roman Czechmanek the other day because, like the guys like that and Brizgalov and all of these failures, guys that came through that were supposed to be what Carter Hart is. And in my mind, And again, look, I'm just a fan too. I don't know anything, but at least he is relatively consistent, has the skill set, gets some defense in front of the guy, stops sucking so much on the penalty kill and quite frankly on the power play. And Ruger, I know you and I have talked about this as well, but the special teams were just abysmal this year, and watching good power play teams and good penalty kill teams in the playoffs.
Like it should be possible to be that bad.
Yeah, and they were consistently night after night.
Yeah. So Jim, what do you think about Carter Hart and where he is as a question mark going forward?
I'm fine with Carter Hart. I'm a big Carter Hart fan. I think if this team has a star or a potential superstar, it's Carter Hart. One thing we have to remember, though, I think, especially in the Metro Division, has so many, outstanding goaltenders. You got Ilya Sorokin, Igor Shesterkin. Carter Hart's a couple years younger than those guys. I think they were over in the KHL and they cooked over there until they were like 24, 25 years old, and then came over to the NHL. Carter Hart, I think, started his NHL career when he was 20, 21. I have to go back and double check to see his age now, but I don't think he's hit 24 yet. So that's one thing I think we have to remember with Hart, that as an NHL goalie, it's very rare. Like, go back and look at guys like Carey Price and Marc-Andre Fleury. They struggled before they turned 24, 25. They weren't the goalies that they were today in their first 2, 3, even 4 seasons. So, you look at Carter Hart's numbers, and the goals against average is pretty much horrendous the last couple seasons. But how much is that on Carter Hart? Last year, I mean, the 2021 season, I think, okay, you could say, yeah, there's something wrong with Carter Hart. But, that entire year I kind of threw out. This year, he looked better to me. I know he was hurt down the stretch. I think he had a high ankle sprain, something like that. But I'm not really worried about Carter Hart. You listen to him in some post game interviews. He sounds like a leader. He sounds like he could be a leader in that room. He's got a little bit of an edge to him, believe it or not. Like, you look at him, and I just see a puppy dog when I see Carter Hart. But when you hear him talk after some of these games, it's like, whoa, this guy could be.
Feel about the move they made signing, was it Fedotov, right? 6'7" goalie from Russia. He's basically what you're describing over in the KHL, bigger, old now. I mean, why would the Flyers? What's the mindset with the Flyers then, to have him back up Carter Hart? Or
potentially, yeah, I guess we'll find out. I mean, I think they're going to start him. I would assume they would start him out in the AHL. 6'6", 207, 25 years old, former 7th round pick. I mean, you look at his KHL numbers and they're good, right? Like,
that's what I mean. So what's the mindset from the Flyers standpoint of bringing this guy in behind Carter Hart? I mean, I guess you could.
I think it's like a win-win situation. If he pans out, that's great. I don't see him as a replacement for Carter Hart. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I think at this point in the NHL, you're going to have a backup goalie that's going to play at least 30, 35 games. So no matter what, you need 2 goalies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's more what I meant. Like, you think they would go that route for a backup over signing a guy like Elliott?
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to bring a veteran backup in again. It's going to be one of the guys in their pipeline, Sandstrom, whoever, but it's going to be one of their guys they have, I think. And that guy will play at least, I think their hope will be at least 30 games is what I'm thinking, man.
That would be ideal. Yeah, good point.
I think about the age of players quite a bit, especially when it comes to goalies, and what I was like at 23, 24 years old, and I was a complete idiot, and I'm maybe probably still a complete idiot.
Luckily, you're not anymore.
But it's a really good point to watch players develop, not only physically but mentally as well. They have to take leadership roles, but they also have to develop into men. I mean, this is all they've been doing their whole lives, and they make the Premier League on the planet, and it's a position where the spotlight is on them all the time. It's hard, and I'm not making excuses for these guys because they get paid a lot of money, and we all know that, like, professional sports, as opposed to doing a lot of other things, is a great gig. But it is still a gig. It's what their profession is. And there is a lot of pressure that they hear all the time. And there's, fame and fortune and women and whatever other distraction might come your way. And those things have an impact, good and bad. But, when you look at what Giroux became over the years, when Giroux became captain, I don't think he was ready for it, but he certainly evolved into that role. And he became a leader on that team, and they were following a different style of captain before it was G. And, Chris Pronger and Claude Giroux are very different players, very different styles. Pronger would get in your face and yell and be an a-hole. Giroux is not that, but he turned into a really good captain over time, and his leadership role became really prominent, and I think helped him evolve to be a better player. And I think, Jim, you're right that Carter Hart is headed in that direction. He does seem like he's growing up some, and if we get a premier Carter Hart over the next 4 seasons, that's not our problem anymore. We got plenty of other problems to deal with. But if it's not a goalie, that's, you know, in a franchise where the goalie has been a problem for a long time, I don't think Carter Hart is the problem anymore.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about being like a 22, 23-year-old kid. I didn't have anywhere close to like millions of dollars at 22, but when I came back from Afghanistan, I was 22 years old and had like 40 grand in the bank, and I thought I was like loaded. And I couldn't imagine how I would have acted with $1 million compared to 40 grand, because I was an idiot.
Yeah,
like you said, yeah, I was a lunatic at 22 with that kind of money. So I couldn't even imagine. But to your other point about how players need to grow and come into a leadership role, I think Carter Hart is becoming that. And like you said about him not being the problem, I already don't think he's the problem. I think goalie is so far on the priority list that cheer up the backup, however you want to do it. I think it'll be one of the guys in the pipeline, and then go work on the rest of the mess. That's everything in front of the goalie is how I think we need to approach that.
Yeah,
so to work our way out from the front, then where do we stand on Ivan Provorov then?
Oh man, this was an all-season discussion on this show. Ivan Provorov?
I don't know what you guys think, because I don't know what to think anymore.
Personally, I think we can't give up on this guy because defensemen. Like, think about how the Islanders and Ottawa feel about giving up on Zdeno Chara. And when Provorov was drafted, his immediate comparison was Nick Lidstrom. Like, this guy didn't forget how to play hockey, right? Like, it's not like he forgot overnight. All that talent and skill is still there. Maybe there's something in his head. Maybe it's a pressure thing. Maybe he's doing it to himself. Like, I don't know what it is, but I can't give up on this guy yet. The guy, I think, still has potential to be like a 15-time All-Star. Like, it's still there. Like, that can be unlocked. I don't know. Nick, what do you think, man?
I agree. I don't want to give up on him either. He's a workhorse. You know, he'll play out there with the 2 broken legs and a broken clavicle. I mean, like, the guy, you have to drag him out of the lineup. And I don't want to give up on a guy that then goes and becomes an all-star with another franchise, right? Yeah, so man. I think Ruger, I think what he needs is a Ryan Ellis or somebody on the blue line with him to help. He can't be the only. He's not a number 1. But he's a great number 2 or a great 1A. And that's part of why this offseason and this team, to me, is really fascinating, because there are good elements there, right? And like, as fans, when we're watching them, we see what they have potential for and what injuries did. And, you know, Hayes is a leader, and Couturier is going to be an interesting guy in the offseason. Like, what kind of player is he next year? He's 30 or right? 30, 31 at this point. Yeah. So, right. And what is Ryan Ellis? I mean, you know, when that signing happened in the last offseason, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. Our penalty kill issues are over and blah, blah, blah. And then it became what it became in the last season. So there are so many unknowns and so many variables. But Dave, to that point, I think Provorov had an off season last year, right? It was not a great season for him. We all know that, and we can acknowledge it. But I'm always the optimist, and I think that he'll improve. I would be a terrible general manager. I'd never want to give up on any player.
This be the year.
Yeah, right. I always think that the players are going to turn a corner, and I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to these guys. Plus, I end up liking these guys as players and as characters. I liked Yandel. I thought this guy's fun and funny and entertaining, and it turns out he was terrible on the ice. I like the guy. So anyway, I haven't given up on Provorov yet.
I picture you just promoting all the players into like front office jobs. Like, listen, man, look, hey, like I gotta cut you, but like, look, man, we're gonna make this.
Seinfeld, isn't it?
we're gonna make this executive assistant to the assistant GM that you can have, man. It's got your name all over it. All right.
To the traveling secretary, Heath Yandel. Yeah.
Well, hey, so you mentioned Ellis though, and he needs to like go see a shaman this all season. The guy refuses to like take surgery or do anything. It's all holistic.
I'm getting Peter Forsberg flashbacks now. Like, he can't fit his foot to skate. Ellis, I don't know what. Got the only person in the world with this hip injury. I don't
Yeah. Well, I guess he could have had surgery, but he refuses to do it. He wants to go take it's this holistic approach. He wants to just rehab, go stretch it out. Like I said, he needs to go see his shaman or whatever he wants to do. We'll send him to Crunch Fitness, Ruger. See if you can, work him out a little bit.
Sure.
Jim, what do you think about Ryan Ellis this offseason, man?
Man, I don't really know what to think. I guess he was really optimistic. I'm just going based off his press conference towards the end of the year because we didn't really see much of him or hear much of him, during the season, and he sounded optimistic. So I haven't heard anything otherwise since then that says he's not going to be ready. So all I can really do is kind of take his word and hope that he's going to be ready for next season. And if he is, that's a major boost because they were without a player that ate up minutes, played on your PK, played on your power play, outstanding, your top line defenseman. If you're missing that guy, it's kind of a domino effect throughout the lineup, right? And we saw Justin Braun play on the top pair for the second year in a row. And just going back to Ivan Provorov for a second, but if this is not a knock on Braun because I love the guy. He's good at what he does, but he's not a top pair defenseman. If you're Ivan Provorov and you're going out against these top two line players every night and Justin Braun's your defense partner, you're not really able to play your game. And all of a sudden, maybe hockey's not that fun, right? Going on 2-3 years. I mean, I'm sure there's other factors, but that's kind of my 2 cents on Provorov. I think he needs a reset. Give him Ryan Ellis and a new coach and see what happens. But yeah, back to Ryan Ellis. A player like that is a major boost to a lineup. And I'm just going to take him for his word and hope that he's going to be healthy for starting next year. And that's a lot of the reason why I'm optimistic about this lineup and next season.
We're such like junkies, like crack addicts when it comes to the Flyers, because during the whole season, everybody was pessimistic by like December. And now it's June 9th. Stanley Cup Finals are over. Everybody here is like, yeah, no, this is why I'm optimistic for next season. This is why I'm the optimist right now.
Right, but a realist as well. And when we talk about like the Niskanen retiring, which was a surprise for everybody, that made Provorov worse, right? And they brought in Ryan Ellis to try and make Provorov the player that he could be, and then Ryan Ellis didn't work out. Jim, I hope you're right. I would like to believe it too. I think players know when they're done, and I don't think that they want to deceive anybody. So I would hope and think that if Ryan Ellis wasn't going to come back, he'd be honest about it. And if he does think that he can come back and play well, he'll be honest about that too. So, but that's again me just having faith and trusting, and maybe that's naive on my part.
Well, if he comes back, even if he's not the Ryan Ellis that we've known, or the Ryan Ellis that the name that he's established, 90% of Ryan Ellis is still an upgrade over the rest of our defense. Like, even if all we get is 85-90% of Ryan Ellis, that's kind of how I look at these guys with these injuries. Like, Sean Couturier is another one with this back injury. Like, if all we get is 85-90% of Sean Couturier, I still want that Sean Couturier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it also speaks to like the quality of the players that the Flyers have too. When they trade a guy like Justin Braun, and he's getting playing time with the Rangers in the playoffs, but he certainly wasn't. It's not a top line defenseman, and so I remember when they sent Tiemann into the Blackhawks a few years ago. Kimo barely got any playing time on the team that won the Stanley Cup, and got to hoist the cup as a result, which was cool. But like that was our best defenseman, and we let him go. And so like that's when you look at this rebuild and where they are. Yes, I'm optimistic, and yes, it's June, and I'm hoping for good things, but I'm also being realistic about it. I love hockey. I love watching it. And going into this season, I think my expectations are going to be a little more metered than they were going into last season.
I don't know. I always think we can win the cup. I don't know. Every single year, I'm like,
it's a sickness.
I have to, jump off. I got to get back to work here. But you guys let me hang out with Nick and you guys here. This is fun.
No, Ruger, thanks for jumping
all day, every day.
Yeah, hey Ruger, thanks for jumping on, man. And I'm gonna give a shout out now to our executive producer, George Ruger, for helping set this whole thing up, man. So shout out to him.
Around George, man.
Yeah, exactly. Hey Ruger, thanks so much for coming on. And thanks for putting this together.
I'll talk to you.
Thanks, Ruger. Casey says hi.
Okay, Nick.
See ya.
He's a good dude, man. Me and him linked up because he actually was watching the show, and I was giving away tickets. And he actually won one of them. I did like a comments thing. I'm like, hey, if you post your comment, I called out, like you win some tickets. So I sent him the tickets. It was for Giroux's 1000 game is what it was. And then the day of the game, he messaged me back, goes, hey man, I forgot I have to do this thing with my kid. I can't go. Like can you find somebody else for the tickets? I'm like driving home. I'm like, yeah, hold on, I'll figure. Give me a minute. And that's when he mentions, hey, listen, like I can talk to the guys that, Preston and Steve. I'll see if, you guys can do anything. I think he texted, I don't know if he texted you or Casey, but he's like, let me text them, see if they can do anything. I just wanted to make sure somebody got these tickets.
Yeah, we were there that night. We had a Preston and Steve sweet night for Drew's last game, and it was a nice, fitting finale. They came back and they won, and Drew played great. He got a really nice ovation. It's a cool symbiotic relationship between our show and the Flyers. Even when they're not great, like we try to help promote them when they are great. We've gotten access to the team and made some friends with the players over the years. And again, like just speaking to my inability to ever be a general manager, I like guys like James Van Riemsdyk. I like Claude Giroux. I like Scotty Hartnell a lot. Like they're good guys. They're good friends to our show. They've done a ton of charity work. They've done so many things that people will never even know about. And I appreciate that about them. I think most hockey players are like that. To be honest, I think the hockey players are the best professional athletes just as far as people go. But they're great guys, and I love rooting for great guys. But it's been hard. It's been disappointing being a Flyers fan in the last couple of seasons because they have underperformed. And we were talking about coaching changes earlier and who might come in. Coaching changes sometimes work. I was just watching the Phils over the last week. It seems like the players have responded to a new manager, and the Flyers did not respond to Mike Yeo. I think Mike Yeo is a pretty likable, decent person as well, but he didn't change the dynamic. He certainly didn't get them any more wins than Vigneault would have had. So they could have kept Vigneault until the end of the season, probably would have been the same result, So again, that's part of the reason why this offseason is going to be fascinating to see what happens with this team and then what they're like in October and November.
Now, you mentioned the players doing charity, and you mentioned Giroux and Hartnell. So I have a little note from JJ, Jim Jackson. He told me to ask you about the time that for the Camp Out for Hunger, Hartnell and Giroux came in on a helicopter, and he said that you could be able to tell me about that.
So this was 2011, something like that, back when they were, the contenders every year. And Laviolette was still the head coach. And we had a friend who ran a helicopter company, and Giroux and Hartnell said that they would come out and participate in the Camp Out for Hunger, which is really cool. It's an annual event that we do. It helps all of the proceeds go directly to Phil Abundance. It's become the largest single sponsored food drive in the country, right? So it's something that we put a lot of time and effort into and work really hard on. And the issue was back then when we were doing this, it was in Plymouth Meeting. It was out by the Metroplex in Plymouth Meeting. So to get from where they lived or South Philly to make it a Plymouth Meeting during morning rush hour was not going to be easy for the guys. So we cashed in a favor and asked for a helicopter ride. And so Scott and G both got in the helicopter ride. What we found out later was that Giroux had a couple cocktails the night before, and he got out of the helicopter and he looked green. I mean, he had not, and Hartnell was laughing and having fun, and he was happy to be there. Claude had no idea what he had just walked into, and this was, Claude from more than a decade ago, so he was still green as far as a player goes and a leader. He wasn't the captain yet, and so it was an interesting experience. And then later in the week, we had Laviolette on, and he came out, but he drove, and he said, so I see how it works. You send a helicopter for the players, but the coach has to drive. There was a year, I'll tell you another quick camp out story. There was a year that Mike Richards came, and he might have been the captain at the time. This was, late to 2000s, 2009, maybe something like that. Anyway, quietly, unbeknownst to anyone, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a thick wad of cash, and just dropped it in the bucket to make a donation. He didn't want to do it for people to notice. He didn't want to do it because he wanted to get good press. I don't think he even wanted us to see it, but that's who these guys are. And so, the Mike Richards and the Claude Giroux and the Danny Brières and Scotty Hartnells and all of these guys over the years that we've developed friendships with, we're grateful to those guys for giving of their time and returning texts and coming on our show and helping out when it comes to charity events. And JJ's another one. Jim Jackson's just been a really great friend for a long time, and we're thankful that he's a friend, but we're also grateful that he's a broadcaster in Philly because he's one of the best.
I don't think he gets the respect he deserves as a broadcaster. I think we were just having a conversation among the high and wide guys the other day about broadcasters, and people brought it up that he just doesn't get the kind of respect and recognition that I think he deserves as a broadcaster.
He could very easily be a national guy. He's great at this job in Philly, and I think he appreciates that. He likes going to work every day, even in off seasons, even when the team's not doing so great. And so I think he appreciates who he is for this team and this franchise. But yeah, I mean, like he did some playoff games this year. I think 2 or 3 games for the Blues in the playoffs.
Yeah, Blues wild. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised that the national outlets don't come to him more, because he could do ESPN games or TNT games easily. And but also selfishly, I'm kind of glad that he doesn't, because he's our guy.
Yeah.
I mean, his energy, his call, his knowledge of the game. He goes to all the practices. He goes to the rink. He especially in pre-pandemic times, he gets to know players, and so he'll let us know, hey, you might want to chat with this guy. He's not a frontline center, but he's really interesting, and he's funny. He's got good stories to tell, or he's got an interesting background or whatever. And so I love that about JJ.
His prep work is insane.
Yeah.
I'm taking, like I mentioned off air, that I'm taking his class right now, and that's what we just went over. There is no broadcaster or announcer more prepared than he is. I don't care who you pick. They might be prepared as much, but nobody does more than he does. His preparation is absolutely insane. And anybody that's listening that is a potential broadcaster, I would totally recommend taking this course. Well worth the money. Absolutely incredible guy. Great guy. So knowledgeable. 30 years, 3 decades worth of experience, man. So just echoing what Nick was saying, 100% awesome, man.
Yeah, great guy and a great teacher as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's 100%. And one of the things he talked about, like mentorship, is, hey, listen, he's like, Dave, once these classes are over, feel free to message me, email me, text me, to talk to me anytime, man. Like, this lifetime mentorship, bro. Whatever you need, let me know. Like, just a great dude, man. He was probably one of the positives of this Flyer season, I guess. You know what I mean? We still got JJ for all the games.
Honestly, I couldn't agree with you more, Dave. Like, it was fun, and I love watching the games, and even when they suck, I watch them. But the dynamic between him and Jonesy in the booth is great, and then throw it back to Al and Taryn and Hartsey back in the broadcast booth, or the kind of the studios. And I remember there was a game where Al said that they were guaranteed that they were going to win or something, and then they just crap for the whole rest of the season for that. So you can tell they're all friends. It's not forced. It's cool to see Jonesy get so much national coverage too. Bush as well. These guys that were Flyers or broadcast with the team or broadcast with NBC Sports Philly to get national exposure is great. So it's cool to see Bush getting out there and doing it, and Jonesy as well.
So Nick, since I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I've actually moved to the Midwest recently, a couple years ago, because my wife's from here, so it was at gunpoint.
I get it.
But so my following of the Preston and Steve Show is actually lessened, because I don't just have it as my preset anymore. I can't just listen to the radio. So JJ, staying on topic, he mentioned something to me. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that happened. He's like, yeah, no, it was a big deal. And I explained to him. He goes, so Nick, how you doing since your fall, man? And your wife, like everything that happened, like, dude, it was like a brand new story to me. I had no idea that it went on. I was like, oh, I have to ask him about it now, because I was just out of the loop, because it just wasn't part of my regular routine.
Yeah, thanks for asking, Dave. I appreciate it. It was bad, and I got pretty messed up for a while. I'm doing fine now. Actually, Preston's right across the room from me, and we go to this place called Trinity Rehab. I had some physical injuries and some mental injuries, and it beat me up pretty good. I had an eye injury and a bad concussion, broken wrist, and basically, long story short, I fell off the side of a mountain, and I don't remember any of it. My girlfriend, thank God, was with me. She essentially saved my life. If I had been there by myself, who knows what would have happened. But we were in a really remote wilderness spot in Washington State near North Cascades National Park, and it was fairly awful. But I got good care. She got me out of there. She got me out of this ravine that I fell into. And since I've been back, I've seen excellent doctors. I'm lucky enough to have access to great doctors and people who care about me and help me get better. But hey, I appreciate you asking. Thank you. I'm better. I feel good now. So let's put it that way.
I'm glad you're doing better, man. Yeah, like I said, it was like a brand. When he mentioned it, I was like, "Wait, what happened?" I was like, "Hold on a sec. You gotta let me know," because yeah, it's just hard to stay up. I listen to the podcast when I can, but so much going on. It's just not the same part. So I completely missed the whole thing. I was like, "Wait, Nick, hold on."
Yeah, it happened in, I guess, August of last year, and you want to scroll back.
I got married.
Okay, well, see, there you go. You have a perfect excuse. Yeah, you were busy. But yeah, scroll back through my Instagram account. You'll see I posted some pictures of how messed up I looked, and I was in the hospital for a day, and then basically in a dark room for as long as I needed to be because the concussion was serious. And it's we're sitting here talking about hockey. That's one thing that I think professional sports has done really well over the last 2 decades is taking concussions seriously and treating their players as people and not just a product that's out on the ice, and making sure that their health comes first. And Eric Lindros was my favorite player growing up, and I often think about what could have been with Eric, and his brother's career ended because of concussions, and Pat LaFontaine and all of these guys that maybe if they had had access to better care, or their doctors treated them the way they should have been treated, they would have had different careers. And so, I've learned a lot about concussions over the last year because I went through it. But you see how it relates to sports as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's not a direct comparison, but concussions play a role in mental health and stuff like that. And I'm a big mental health advocate these days. And that's actually a show that I'm trying to put together in the future, is getting some former athletes on that are mental health advocates and some of the things they went through. And try to do like a roundtable discussion on it. But I think overall, professional sports in general, you mentioned concussions specifically, but I think they've taken head injuries and mental health stuff much more seriously in the past 5 years to a decade, maybe. It seems like it's come to the forefront across all professional sports. It's no longer, you got your bell wrong, sit down, get back in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and as a society, we've done better with it too. I mean, people treat mental health better, and they treat concussions better. And so, like, just the fact that it's in the vernacular and people are paying attention to it is a step in the right direction. But we still have a ways to go, and there's still a stigma for the, hey, be a man and get out there, that weird tough it out mentality that certainly still exists. People get crap for going on paternity leave. I mean, I can't believe in 2022 that that's still a thing, that you want to be with your family, the birth of a child, you should absolutely be able to do that. But people give somebody who's going out on a paternity leave a hard time, and say that, whatever. It's a chauvinist approach, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see that these things are developing and progressing in what I consider to be a positive direction. And yeah, I mean, I had some lingering side effects from the concussion, including mental health and depression and anger and shit that messed me up for a while. And so you got to take it seriously. If you don't, you're going to suffer the consequences. And same goes for somebody who's on the ice or a linebacker or whatever. I mean, how many instances do we see in the NFL and the NHL, these guys hitting each other at tops? I mean, the best athletes on the planet hitting each other as hard as they possibly can over and over and over again. And it's remarkable that there aren't more injuries, quite frankly, brain injuries. And so anyway, I'm ranting, but I'm glad to see that all of the leagues are taking it more seriously.
For sure. And you definitely bounced back strong from, your injuries. Recently, LLS Man of the Year. Tell us about that a little bit, man.
Thank you. It's really nice, and I appreciate the shout out. It's Leukemia and Lymphoma Society is a great organization. My nephew Luke is in remission from leukemia. Luke is now he'll be 9 in a couple of weeks, and he was diagnosed when he was 4 with pre-B ALL, and it's a awful thing for a family to go through. This is my brother Adam and my sister-in-law Jenny. That's their oldest son. They have another son named Tommy, who's younger than Luke, and so it affects the whole family. And LLS, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, is just a great organization that helps out families. Their 2 primary thrusts are making sure families are okay, get them whatever they need whenever they need it, and then funneling money directly into research. So, like, there's constantly being research being done on blood cancers right here in Philadelphia. We're lucky in Philly to have incredible research facilities. And so LLS, the Man of the Year campaign is a fundraiser. And so I raised a lot of money, which was really cool. And Cindy Webster, who's also a radio personality, she was the Woman of the Year. So 2 radio people did really well, which is cool. And collectively, there were several nominees, but we raised over $360,000, just an hour campaign, which is awesome. And LLS is, they have chapters all over the country. So I raised the most, and so I won the award, which is nice. But it's an organization that I would do anything for. So next year, if you see somebody running for Man of the Year, or you read about their Light the Night campaign, or they do this thing called Big Climb, I've done Big Climb Philly a number of years. Casey from our show has done it as well. It's a really cool organization where you climb up as many stairs as you possibly can in a skyscraper. This year they did it at the Link, which was cool. But anyway, LLS is an awesome organization. I raised a lot of money for them, and as a result, they named me Man of the Year, which is a nice thing.
Hell yeah, man. No, that's fantastic, man. So, I mean, obviously, you have a ton of accolades, and that's just one more little feather in your cap. So we're past the 45-minute mark, so I like to do a little roundtable at the end of the episode. So, Jim, you've been quiet for a bit, so we'll throw it over to you, man. The floor is yours. You can talk about whatever you want, man.
Well, we could talk about the Flyers more. Getting over COVID for the second time. You guys ever had COVID before?
I'm just getting over it myself, Jim. The other producer on our show, Casey, he had it for the last week. He was out working from home. My girlfriend had it for about 10 days.
It's such a pain in the ass.
It sure is, and it's kind of everywhere right now. So you're feeling better? You're feeling okay?
I feel 100%. I just can't smell or taste anything, which is the worst part.
Yeah, it's brutal. And look, we could go on a COVID rant on this roundtable, I'm sure, but like, it's when you deal with. You're talking about sports, and I was at the Coldplay concert last night, and I took my son to see a Sixers playoff game. Like, this is just the society we live in now, right? So, like, the better we learn how to deal with COVID and live with it seriously on an everyday basis, it exists. Let's acknowledge it. Let's do the best we can to protect ourselves, but also, like, let's keep living and going to Flyers games and going to concerts and doing things like this. I think we've learned how to adapt quite a bit over the last couple of years and doing this type of conversation. I don't think this probably would have been as possible or as doable 2+ years ago, but it is now, and that's cool. As on the radio show, we have guests via Zoom all the time, which is neat. In person is always better, but Zoom is better than a phone call. So those types of things have been improvements, I think, over the last couple of years.
So I know who got me sick. So I'm a little bit. I was angry. I was like, wait, you were sick when I hung out with you. I'm sick now. I just got a test. It's COVID. Are you kidding me? If you're sick, stay home and get better. Like, don't go out.
Yeah.
Being sick is one of my. It's annoying. And so yeah.
But
I wasn't as calm. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, stay in your house. If you're sick, don't come to mine.
You're right. If you get sick, stay home. You're not a hero if you go into work. You're an idiot.
Right, you're getting everyone else sick.
Exactly. I don't know how I got it, but I do know that I gave it to my girlfriend, and so I'm the a-hole there.
What are you going to do with that, though? It's like,
We tried, man. We tried being in the same house at the same time and living on separate floors and whatever. But like, it's a communicable disease that exists in the air, so there's only so much you can do. But I'm glad you're on the mend. It does.
You too. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
I haven't gotten COVID yet, at least as far as I know. I haven't.
One of the unicorns.
Yeah. I don't know yet. Maybe I have, just asymptomatic or whatnot, but as far as I know, I haven't had it. I mean, actually, no, I'm sure I probably did. I'm sure everybody's had it almost at this point. I just got lucky the time or two that I had it. But all right, Nick, floor's over to you. You've actually done a lot of talking, man, so I hope you still have more stuff to say. But anyway, the floor is yours, man. You're on the soapbox now.
Well, thanks for inviting me, first of all. Thanks to Ruger for coordinating it. And Nick Ruger is a great guy, an awesome trainer. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro 10 years ago, a decade ago. I never would have made it to the summit without Nick. He got me in shape and he got me mentally prepared and physically prepared. So I'm always indebted and grateful to have Nick a part of my life, because he's just an awesome person and a cool Flyers fan, and you can go in and work out and chat about sports with him. And so that's really cool. Being a Philly sports fan right now is an interesting time, right? Because the Phils seem like maybe they've turned it around, but it's a week. Who knows where they go? Sixers have been a disappointment the last couple of years. I think that they should have done better this season. But again, what the hell do I know? The Eagles are an interesting organization, because I think they're trending in the right direction. What is Jalen Hurts in this season? Like they've gotten better in the offseason, which is cool. So what are they going to be like? So I think it's hard to be a Philly sports fan right now. And we've spent the last hour talking about Flyers, and the Flyers are my favorite team in my favorite sport. I love hockey. I can watch any playoff hockey game. I can watch almost any regular season hockey game. To me, it's fun. I think this playoffs has been phenomenal. It's been so exciting. I really love the Avs Oilers series. I thought the Oilers Flames series was great too. And I was rooting for G. I wanted the Panthers to do well, but then the Lightning showed up and showed why they're the back-to-back champs. So, the hockey playoffs have been great, and they are fun to watch and really entertaining. But it also makes me feel like I miss it. Like I want my team in there, and they're just not. And I would love to be optimistic. I'm excited to see what they can do this season, but I have no idea what the hell it's going to be, So who knows? If the three of us are having this conversation a year from now, are we regurgitating the same problems, or is there's a whole new set of problems? But yeah, it's been really fun. I like Ruger. I can talk about hockey at any time. I'm sure you guys are the same. If you are a Preston and Steve fan, or even if you're not, check us out. You can stream us. You can podcast us. WMMR.com, PrestonandSteve.com. Follow me on Instagram. It's Nick Mcllwain 1, Nick MCILWAIN, and then the number 1. Instagram and Twitter and all of that kind of stuff. But we stream our show for free every day, and we are all Flyers fans and hockey fans here in the studio. So hopefully we do them. We do them proud when they come on our show, and hopefully Flyers fans respond well to when we have guys like Giroux and Hartnell and Danny on over the years. And we just announced our Camp Out for Hunger for 2022. It's going to be November 7th to the 11th. So it'll be in the South Philly Sports Complex, right across the street from where the Flyers play. It'll be in the Wells Fargo Center parking lot, sort of in between Xfinity Live and the Wells Fargo Center. And November 7th to the 11th, we're there for the entire week. We collect non-perishable food items for Phil Abundance, and all that information's up on PrestonandSteve.com and WMMR.com as well. But I love chatting hockey, so thank you guys for inviting me, and thanks for having me a part of it.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate it. Any guest that takes the time to come on here, hang out with us, talk hockey, we really appreciate it. Camp Out for Hunger is an amazing charity that's been going on. I've been following that for years. I've been a Preston and Steve Show fan for years. I have fallen off in recent years, as I mentioned earlier, but I try to stay as in touch as I possibly can. I also want to shout out my wife real quick, Jessica. She's 8 months into her mobilization. She just passed her SIF test, which means she can drop a packet to go to flight school.
Wow.
So that's huge. Yeah, super proud of her, super happy for her. So it's really exciting. She comes home next week on leave, so we're excited for that. It's been 8 months since we've seen each other, so
my goodness.
That.
Well, please tell her I said congratulations, and that's impressive. Thank you for your service, and thank her for us as well. And if you ever get a chance, come to Camp Out for Hunger. It's hopefully, knock on wood, again this year it'll be kind of back to normal. We've had to have the restrictions that everybody's had to have in place for the last 2 years, but this year's should be relatively normal, and it's free and open to the public, and it's a really great vibe. A lot of Philadelphians come together for a good cause, and you feel good doing it. So if you ever get a chance to swing by, Dave, we'd love to have you, and we'll chat hockey. And it's also kind of cool because that week, the Flyers are playing. So when we're really lucky, we can line it up to have a guy, some guys come over. We'll go see a game that night. And so, congrats to you, and congrats to your wife as well.
Thanks, man. So for Jim Mcllwain, for Preston Steve's, Nick Mcllwain, for Real Delco Dave, High Wide Fam, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, Nick.